Hello students, welcome to Sri Jayendra's Ring Zone classes. I am your friend and mentor for coming classes with respect to physics. This is the first lecture of a unit motion in a plane. So let's begin with today's class. And today we are going to discuss about the vectors. So just started with the scalars and vectors and then we are switching to the vectors. So let's begin. First, what is physical quantity? What is physical quantity? We can say that all those quantity that can be measured, those all quantities are considered as a physical quantity. Those all quantities which can be measured are the physical quantities. Now which are the measurable quantities, which are the quantities that can be measured? So let's say for an example we can say that they are the length, mass, velocity, temperature, area, volume, density. What else? Yes, you can add on to this. It's a force, it's a pressure, it's a displacement, it's an acceleration, and etc. Yes, this all quantities are known as the physical quantity because they can be measured. Now this physical quantities can be divided into two parts. One of them are considered as the scalar and another one are the vectors. Now, to know about the scalars and vectors, that which one of them are the scalars and which one of them are the vectors, first we need to understand that what the terms magnitude and direction represents and how I will say that this quantities are scalars or this quantities are vectors. So let's begin then. First, that what is scalar, what is vector, as well as before that we should understand that what the magnitude and what the direction represents. So first let us understand the term magnitude. What is it? We can see that magnitude is one which is countable or measurable, that can be calculated, that this balls are 1 2 3 4 5 something like this. Yes, that everything which represents a number, that means let's say if a force is 10 newton, that force is a 10 newton. What is 10? It's a magnitude of that force. Let's say displacement is of 20 meters, 20, it is a number. Yes, same way, let's say suppose ki mass is there and mass is of 10 kg. Here 10 is a number, 10 is a number, and you know that kg is a unit that we have discussed in the units and measurement unit. Let's say force is the 8 newton, so 8 is a number and newton is a unit. So magnitude are the one which is a number which represents certain data. Yes, so what we can say is that all those physical quantities which are completely specified by magnitude and a unit only are called as the scalar quantities. That means, in other words, if I need to mention this, then I can say that if if there are certain quantities which requires magnitude only, then those quantities can be considered as a scalar quantities. I hope this is clear. So shall I make a list? Yes, of physical quantities that can be considered as a scalar. Yes, mass is the scalar quantity. Distance, yes, it is a scalar. Speed, even it is a scalar. Energy, scalar vector, yes, it is a scalar. When I talk about the energy, I am talking about the every type of energy. That means you can take a potential energy, you can take a kinetic energy, you can take light energy, you can take heat energy, you can take sound energy, you and every other energy. Yes, all these energies are the scalar only. What next? What next? Temperature, yes, it's a scalar. What about the force? No, it is not a scalar. Good. Next, next, pressure. Yes, pressure is a scalar quantity. Next, electric current. Yes, even it is a scalar. Next, next, which other quantities can be represented as scalar? That means they require a magnitude only and they don't require anything else or any additional information to represent themselves correctly. Which are they? Which are they? Work done and etc. Yes, this all quantities, even this kind of all quantities would be the considered as scalar quantities. I hope these things are clear to you. Is it? Is it? Yes. Okay. Next, next, let's say displacement. I need to represent the displacement. That is, suppose a question has been asked that what is the displacement between Cyber Towers and Kolkata. Yes. So if I need to represent the displacement between two locations, what I need to represent is, let's say I need to represent it is as a 10 kilometer in the north direction. Now look at this very carefully. What they shows is that 10 is the number, which is magnitude. Kilometer is the unit, and the north it is a direction. So to represent certain quantities, you need to mention magnitude, but not only magnitude, you need to represent the direction as well. So those quantities which requires magnitude plus direction, those quantities are known as the vector quantities. I hope this is clear. So all those physical quantities which are completely specified by magnitude, unit and direction are called as the vector quantities. Is it clear? Is it clear? Are you sure? Yes? Okay. So let's understand what is scalar. What is scalar? What we can say is a scalar quantity is a quantity that has only magnitude and has no specific direction in space. Yes, if no specific direction is required, or if we can completely define the term with the help of magnitude only, then it is considered as a scalar. Yes, situations where magnitude alone is sufficient. Yes, which are they? We have already made a list. It's a length, volume, time, mass, and etc. Next, what is vectors? What we can say is the a vector quantity is a quantity that has both. It should be having magnitude and it should be having a direction in space. Yes, let's say velocity, force, displacement, torque, and many more. So it is the situation where magnitude and direction both are the required. If magnitude and direction both are required, then we can say it's in vector quantity. I hope this is clear. Is it? Is it clear? Yes. So what 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 make any quantity as a scalar and vector? One more time. It's a magnitude which makes us as the scalar. Yes. If if any quantity requires a magnitude only, that means they are the scalars. But if any quantity requires magnitude and direction, then it is a vectors. Yes, we are going to add something to this, but at that time I will define that what actually vector is. But at this point of time, you can consider that a quantity satisfies magnitude and direction, then it can be represented as vectors. Yes. So let's start with the vectors. What is vector, how it look like, and what all we know about the vectors. So let's begin with the vectors. Yes, this is very helpful, as when we are in third unit, motion in a straight line, we were discussing that we have a majorly three parts They belongs to a part of an maybe you can consider from the maths. That one was the differentiation that we have learned up to 12th. Another is the integration. Yes, even that has been taught and you also know that. And one of the section is vector. Yes, these are the three parts. These are the three mathematical tool we use in physics. So what we are supposed to do is we are just use them. We are just use them and we are just learn them according to the physics. According to the physics, my means is that we are going to learn that onto that level, that which level can be used in physics only. But we are going to learn here vectors that from 11th point of view as well as from 12th point of view. I do not need to learn the vectors anymore in the next classes. Yes, so whatever we are going to learn about the vectors, it is the final, and we are going to learn all those things which can be used in physics for class 11 as well as class 12. So please learn this very carefully because this is going to help us in 11th and 12th both. So let's begin. How a vector should look alike. Yes, so this is the representation of a vector. We always represents arrow. This is a arrow. This point is the tail. This is the tail of a vector, and this point it's a head of a vector, and this is how vector represents. Symbolically we can write it as an AB is equals to S, and the magnitude of AB, it is a size of an arrow. It's a size of an arrow which represents the magnitude. Yes, so if you have been given like this, let's say this is AB and let's say this is CD. So by simply observation you can say that magnitude of CD is more as compared to AB. Magnitude of CD is more as compared to the AB. Yes. So which are the different types of vectors that we know? So let's begin with the types of vectors. First, they are the equal vectors. What we can say is consider two vectors. First vector is AB and another vector is CD. As you can see that these two vectors are moving in the same direction. They are moving in this direction. Yes, they are moving in the same direction, as well as their size of the arrow. Their size of the arrow are look alike a same. So if two vectors are there, if two or more vectors are there, they are having the same magnitude and the same direction, irrespective of their position in the space, then they are called as the equal vectors. Yes. So this AB and CD are considered as the equal vector. You can write like this. Suppose one of the vector is like this, another vector is like this. So if you by observation you can understand that, let's say suppose this is x vector x, this is vector y. These two are having same magnitude as well as they are having the same direction, then these two are considered as an equal vectors. But suppose the situation is like this, that this is x and this is y, this is x, this is y. As you can see that the size of an arrow are the same. Yes, the size of an arrow is the same, but do they have a same direction? Do they have a same direction? No, they are having the different direction. So I could not say x is equals to y. So x not equals to y, because when I require a vector, when I am talking about the vectors, I will always represent that they must have same magnitude and direction. Yes. So one thing, next, It's an opposite or negative or anti-parallel vectors. Yes. So look at this first vector. It's an AB, or I can say it's an vector of P, and the another vector it's an vector of Q. If I observe the size of an arrow of both the vectors, if I observe the size of an arrow of the both the vectors, then I can understood that both vectors are having same magnitude, but the directions are different. Look at this. Here the arrow is moving in this direction, here the arrow is moving in this direction. So what I can say is my vector P is equals to negative of my another vector Q. Yes, so I can say anti-parallel vectors or opposite vectors or negative vectors when any two of the vectors of same time, which could be equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. So their magnitude must be the same, but the directions are different. If it is the situation, then I can say that these are the opposite vectors or negative vectors. Is it clear? Is it? Is it clear? Yes. Okay. Next. Next is the unit vectors. This is a vector with some certain special powers. Yes, please remember this. We can say, as its name suggests, unit, that a vector having a unit magnitude in a given direction is called a unit vector. Unit stands to a 1. I hope this is understood by you people. Yes, it is a vector having a magnitude of 1. We can say it's a unit vector. It is represented as A. Look at this. It is having a cap. So this is called as an A cap. This is B cap. C cap. Yes. So when you see this cap, this is even pronounced as in cap. When you see this, when you observe this cap, that means it is representing a unit vector. And if I want the value of an vector A or a unit vector A, then I should write it as an it is a given vector divide by magnitude of that vector. Yes. So let's say a vector A is there, then it should be represented as vector A is equals to vector A divide by magnitude of A. Now how magnitude will become and how magnitude can be calculated, that we are going to see in the next slides. But I think it is clear up till now. Is it? Is it clear up till now? Are you sure? So this is the unit vector. Next, it is the zero vector. It is the zero vector. Now what the zero vector is, it is a vector having zero magnitude. That means it must not be have any magnitude, and with no specific direction is called as a zero vector, or specifically it is represented as a null vector, and it is represented by O. Yes. So let's say suppose where I going to use the zero vector. Let's say suppose a particle has started with rest. If particle has started with the rest, that means the velocity of that particle must be at rest. So at that time velocity can be represented with the null vector or with the zero vector. Yes. Or I can say if my particle has started its motion from the origin. So if it has started its motion from the origin, then the position vector of a particle at that origin, position vector of a particle at that origin can be represented as zero vector. Is it clear? Is it clear? Are you sure? So this is zero vector. Yes. Next, next, one second. Yes. Next is the rectangular unit vectors. These are some specific unit vectors. They represent the specific directions. Yes. So let's have a look that what are they. What we can say is the rectangular unit vectors are the unit vectors along the positive directions of the axis of the coordinate system. As you understand that this is x-axis, this is y-axis, and this is z-axis. We have a particular vector for every direction, for every positive x, for every positive y, and for every positive z. So Vector I mean I say I cap, represents the x direction. Vector j represents the y direction. And vector k represents the z direction. So these are the unit direction in a specific direction. So let's say if I represents velocity is equals to 3 I cap, that means velocity is 3 units in positive x direction. I hope this is clear. Is it? So when I represent v is equals to 3i, that means I mean that velocity is 3 units. Velocity is 3 units in x directions. Is it clear? Is it any doubts? Is it clear? Is there any doubts? Is there any doubts? No? So shall we move to the next topic? Are you sure? So let's then move to the next. That next is the angle between two vectors. Next is the angle between two vectors. Let's say, suppose this is vector A and this is vector B. So if someone asks me that find out angle between vectors A and B, if someone asks me that find out the angle between vectors A and B, how could I write? So first thing that came to my mind is that this is vector A, this is vector B, and this must be the angle between these two. But this is not the case. So why this is false? Because to find out angle between two vectors, you need to match or you need to connect head to head or tail to tail of of two vectors. Please remember this thing, that when you require to find out when you require to find out the angle between two vectors, you need to connect head and head or tail to tail of the two vectors. So let's look at this, that how this vectors can be connected head to head. This was the situation, if you remember, that this is the vector A and this was the vector B. Yes. So now to find out the vectors and to find out the angle between these two vectors, what I need to match? I need to match head to head and tail to tail. Now what is the situation here? This is tail part of the vector A. This is head part of the vector A. This is the head part of vector B and this is the tail part of vector B. So this is the situation. Now if I need to find out the angle between these two vectors, what I need to do is I need to match either head to head or tail to tail. So for that I am having one freedom from the vector is that you can shift your vectors parallelly. Please remember this word. You can shift your vectors. No issues with that. But when and when you shift your vectors, that must be shifted parallel, and their angle does not change. Their angle should not be changed. If you shift it correctly in a parallel manner, that angle never changes and the magnitude remains the same. So I can represent this vector as, this is the first vector, that is vector A, and I can shift this vector over here. Look at this. Yes, this was the situation. This was the previous, and now it has been shifted. So now if it has been shifted, that means this is the angle theta. How could I say this? Because look at this. This is the tail part of A, this is the tail part of B, and you have matched tail to tail. So this could be considered as an angle theta. I hope this is clear. Is it? Is it? Okay. So what else you can do to find out this angle? What else you can do? Yes, have a hit and trial method. Yes, you can. What you can do is that you can shift this vector A on the upper side. That the new situation would be something like this. This is vector A, this is vector B, and this can be angle theta. This was the case, initial case, and you have shifted it to this. Yes, any other option? Try it, you will find something. Any other option? Yes, you can shift this vector on a backend side. How? Let's have a look. This is vector A, and this can be vector B, and this would be the angle theta between these two. Yes, I hope this is clear. Yes. So when I need to find out, when I need to find out the angle between two vectors, I need to match either head to head or tail to tail. Otherwise, whatever the angle I'm going to calculate without matching head to head or tail to tail would not be an appropriate one. So let's have one of the question. Let's say this is first vector, vector A, and this is vector B, and this angle has been given as an 120-degree. Yes, and they ask that find out angle between A and B. This is their requirement, that find out the angle between A and B. So if this is the requirement, what I can do is that, look at this. Does it match head to head, tail to tail? This is the head section, and this is the tail section of B. So as whatever the data they have provided, there presents the head to tail matching. If I want to find out the angle, then I must match head to head or tail to tail. So what options can I have? I can shift this A in this direction, and probably things will be done. Let's have a look. So if A has been shifted in this, and B would be at here only. Initially, this is the situation. This represents the initial. Yes, and they have given me this 120-degree. So now my correct answer should be S. This is the tail of A. This is the tail of B. So this could be the correct angle. As you know, this is 120, so this must be 60-degree. Yes, because it's a complete half of the circle would be of 180-degree. So 60-degree would be the correct answer. Is it clear? Is it? Is it clear? Yes. Shall I add one more question here or here itself? Yes. So the next question would be, let's say they have given that this is 30 degree, this is vector A, this is vector B. So here the situation is that this is the tail section of vector A, this is the tail section of vector B, and A's this are the tail sections of both the vectors. So no any correction is required. So no any correction is required, and this 30 degree represents this 30 degree represents angle between A and B. I hope it is clear to you. Is it? Is it clear to you? So uh, now I can say that you can find out that how angle between two vectors can be calculated, and that can be measured, and that can be calculated by you guys. Yes, so let's move to the next topic, and that is addition of vectors. Here from here we are starting vector algebra. From here we are beginning the vector algebra. Yes, so if I am having a two or more than two vectors, and I just want to find out the addition of this vectors. Yes, what are the options do I have? So I have a certain options, what we can say it's in geometrical methods. I can have a triangle law, I can have a polygon law, I can have a parallelogram law. Yes, but as I know that you have gone through this all methods in the school, in the school classes as well. Yes, we are just giving the proof and statement of parallelogram law. Yes, because from the parallelogram law, the situation could be visible very easily probably, and our formulas can be derived with the help of this. So we are just going to cover the parallelogram law, but all the laws have a same result. All the laws have a same result. Even next when and when required, we are going to use the polygon law, and I will give you a brief about it. Yes, so first let's begin with the parallelogram law of vector addition. This is parallelogram law of vector addition. Its statement says that if two vectors of same time acting simultaneously at a point are represented in magnitude and direction along two adjacent sides of a parallelogram, then the resultant vector is represented in magnitude and direction by the diagonal drawn from the same point. So what they say is that let's say this is the point at which two vectors are acting simultaneously, that one of the vector is vector p, another vector is vector q, and if these two vectors are acting such as that they these two vectors can be represented on the two adjacent sides. Let's say this is first side and this is second on the parallelogram, then their diagonal can represent as the resultant vector. Now what does it mean? What do you understand by the resultant vector of this two? Suppose let's go to the class 10. Do you remember that if this is the first resistor, this is the second resistor, this is R1, this is R2, and you were said so that sir these two are in series combination, and if I need to find out the equivalent resistance of this two, then it could be R1 plus R2. Yes, do you remember these things? Do you remember these things? Yes. So what does it say is that if if I need to replace this R1 and R2 with the help of any one of the resistor, with the help of any one of the resistors, I can replace this with the this. It's an RS is equals to R1 plus R2, and the things will be done. Yes, and the things will be done. I hope these things are clear to you. that if I represent these two vectors, one if one of them is R1, another one of them is R2, then I can solve this as an R1 plus R2 and the things will be done. I hope these things are clear to you. Is it? Is it? So when two vectors or more than two vectors are acting at a point simultaneously, if I need a one of the vector which can represent these two vectors, then that vector would be known as the resultant vector. Is it clear what the resultant vector means? So let's begin then. Suppose what we have given is that what we have been provided is this is the vector P, this is the vector Q, and angle between these two vector is theta. Now let's look at this first. Is it a correct angle or I need to modify it? Yes, that this is the tail part of a vector B or vector P, and even this is the tail part of vector Q. So our tail to tail has been matched. Our tail to tail has been matched, and when tail to tail has been matched, I can simply go with the same thing. Yes. So what I can have is let's project a perpendicular on this vector, and that perpendicular is named as an E or CE, and let's say if this angle is theta, then this angle must be a theta. So what I can have is, according to the Pythagoras, that if I see the triangle AEC, AC is my hypotenuse and AE is the base and CE is the perpendicular. So what I can write is it's an AC square is equals to AE square plus EC square. Now what the AE is, that AE is equals to AB plus BE. That's an AB plus BE whole square plus EC square. So if I write AB plus BE whole square, I can simply understand that this is A plus B whole square, and if it is A plus B whole square, it should be A square plus 2AB plus B square. This is A plus B whole square. Yes, this is A square plus 2AB plus B square. So I can write like this. It's an AB square plus 2AB into BE plus BE square plus EC square. Now, now, what I can write is that if I see this triangle very carefully, then what could I write for the sine theta of this triangle? What could I write for the sine theta of this triangle? So sine theta should be is equals to, in this triangle, sine theta should be is equals to EC divide by BC. So EC should be is equals to BC sine theta. Is it clear? And what is cos theta? That what cos theta is BE divide by BC. So BE should be is equals to BC into cos theta. I hope these things are clear. Is it? Is it? Yes. So I am replacing the same value. I am replacing the BE. I am replacing the BE with the help of BC cos theta. Yes. So it is an AB square plus 2AB into BC cos theta plus BC square. So if I write like this, my AB is P, and my AD, a same way my BC, because AD and BC are the two parallel sides. Yes, so they both represents the same magnitude. So AB square, it's an P square, 2AB it's an PQ, AB dot BC, that means it's a PQ cos theta plus Q square. So what I get is that if I need one of the resultant vector due to this two vectors, what value I can have? I can have R is equals to root of P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos theta. Yes, this is the resulting vector. This is the resulting vector when two vectors are acting simultaneously. Is it clear? Is it clear? Are you sure? Yes. So shall we move to the next? Shall we? Yes. Now what that situation is, that I know the resulting vector, what would be the magnitude of this. So I have done with the magnitude. Next, I am interested in the angle this, because this will represent the direction. We always calculate directions. We always calculate a direction from horizontal direction itself, from x-axis in an anti-clockwise manner. Yes. So if I see this again, the same triangle from the triangle A, E and C, if I see it's a tan alpha, what is it? It's a tan alpha should be is equals to CE divided by AE. So and AE is the AB plus BE. Now what the CE is, as we have represented it in the last slide only, that CE is equals to BC sin theta, and this BE is equals to BC cos theta. So let's replace that. So if I have a tan alpha, that should be is equals to CE, which is BC sin theta, that would be equals to BC sin theta, divide by, this is AB plus BC cos theta. Now BC, what it represents, it's in Q, and AB it represents the Q, that I know. So this is equals to Q sin theta divided by P plus Q cos theta. So it's an alpha. If it is an alpha, then it would be a tan inverse of Q sin theta divided by P plus Q cos theta. So let's just summarize these things. Let's just summarize these things. That if I am having an two vectors, they are acting on a same point. If I am having a two vectors and it is acting simultaneously on a point, then if I want to find out the resulting vector, then two things would be there. One would be the magnitude of them, another would be of direction with them. So their magnitude would be r is equals to under root of p square plus q square plus 2pq cos theta, where theta is the angle between two vectors. Theta is the angle between two vectors. Yes. And the resultant vector makes an angle with respect to side AB. We always calculate from the horizontal side in the anticlockwise direction. It would be equals to alpha is equals to tan inverse of q sin theta upon p plus q cos theta. So is it clear? Is it clear? Are you done with this? Are you done with this? Are you sure? Yes. So let's wind it up this class over here itself. Yes, so what we have done in this session is, what we have done all this in this session is that we know what the now what we know what the vector is, what the scalar is, how vector would be represented, what are the different types of vectors, and at last we have reached to the how vector can be converted to a resulting vector. So if I want to represent the resulting effect due to this two vectors or due to this three vectors, I can have the values. I hope this is clear. Yes, this is the very beginning sessions of the vectors. In the next class we are going to learn more about the resulting of the vectors. We are going to observe the different cases of that. So please before you turn on the next video, before you turn on the next class, please revise this very carefully, because vectors are the such mathematical tool that we require not only in class 11 but also in class 12. So please read this very carefully and go through it. Till then, thank you, have a good day, take care, bye bye.